My name's Jason Knott. I am the editor of CE Pro, and I'm honored to be talking to these two esteemed individuals today about a technology that has the potential of really changing the home theater market dramatically. And for integrators, especially when you're targeting high-end affluent customer base, micro-LED technology is going to be something that you are definitely going to want to know more information about. So, by the way, we do want to interact with you. So we have some questions, and we're going to talk about the technology and where it's headed. But at the same time, if you have questions, please feel free, hold up your hand, shout it out. If you catch my eye somehow, and I'll repeat the question back to the group. But we do want to interact with you. We want to hear what questions you have about micro-LED technology. And of course, the other element that goes hand in hand with a dramatic new video technology is the audio companion, and how you can take this micro-LED technology and create a similarly astounding sound system to go with it. So with me, let me do some quick introductions, and I'll have them kind of tell us a little bit more about themselves. Christopher Simpson, Business Development Director.
Close.
Close?
Yeah, Senior Business Development Manager.
Senior Business Development Manager at Samsung. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Chris.
Yeah, so I've been in this industry, not specifically the custom installer industry, but in Pro AV, cinema, film for over 25 years now. And have a varied background in projection, direct view LED, and some experience with micro-LED technology as well.
Great to have you. We're excited to hear about the technology. Also with me, old friend Jim Garrett. Jim, let me get your specific lengthy title.
Yes.
Senior Director of Product Strategy and Planning for the Luxury Audio Division, at Harman, which includes JBL Synthesis, Revel, Arcam, Mark Levinson, and Lexicon. Jim, tell us about a little bit more.
Thanks. Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for everybody to come and have the little chat with us here. So my name is Jim Garrett. I'm an industry lifer, north of 25 years now here in the industry, all spent on the audio side of the industry, and been with Harman now for just about 9 years, working specifically and exclusively through the luxury audio division.
All right, let's jump right into it. I threw out micro-LED technology. Chris, what is micro-LED technology?
Yeah, so micro-LED technology is a revolutionary new technology for the display industry. From a technical perspective, it consists of an array of LEDs, red, green, blue diodes, that are very, very, very small, microscopic in size in some instances. With that, it provides for extra black area within the display, and in LED, black is the absence of light. And so with that, you get much higher contrast, much better color, and it also lends itself very well to scalability and revolutionizing the way people will use this technology to have very high-end, high-quality displays.
All right. Take it to the next step. Where does it fit in the residential space?
Yeah, good question. So in January 2018 at CES, Samsung introduced this technology for the development of the product they call the Wall. The Wall is a micro-LED-based technology, 146 diagonal 4K image. It is scalable. It allows for use in high-end home residential applications, and it has some amazing attributes. Incredible black levels, contrast, the ability to get an exceptionally high-quality image in ambient light conditions. So whereas other display technologies in the past were very hindered and sacrificed quality by the introduction of ambient light.
So if I could put it in a nutshell for everybody, it's This is the bringing of video wall, dynamic video wall technology to the residential space. We're going to talk a little bit about where this fits in compared to two-piece projection, which I'm sure most everybody here is already doing. All right, let's talk a little bit about the audio portion of this, Jim. So we have a whole new technology. What are some of the problems that this potentially brings to integrators, challenges, and how do they get solved?
I think probably the most obvious one, and you look at this, and you think about the screen size and the scale of the video that we're talking about, these are really more replacing what people are used to doing with two-piece projection. So if we look at a traditional system like this, with a large screen, all the integrators are typically used to putting the speakers behind the screen, so a perforated or woven screen. And obviously now, with a solid surface, that kind of precludes you from doing that. So if you look at this traditional LCR placement, that's the aspect of the system that really has to change. The rest of it, in terms of the height channels or the side and back surround speakers, is going to be pretty much the same as what you're doing today, but you really have to rethink the LCR placement. So this is an image showing the JBL synthesis system that we have in our booth, but that's a pretty typical, high-end luxury immersive audio system. So you can see the traditional LCR placement there. That's not something you're going to be able to do with the video wall now. So the other system that we have in our booth is more of a media room, and we do have a 110-inch version of the IF display that's there. And that is showing a couple of different options on what you can do with the LCR placement. The first of which in these is to simply put the LCRs right across the top of the screen, and that's what we've done in this particular room. And that really kind of keeps the central line, if you will, of the LCRs that are there. That's good in some aspects. One of the issues you'll have to think about, of course, is that does position the LCRs up close to where you may have the front height channels there. And we want to maintain still a pretty good angle of differentiation between those. So you will have to take that into consideration. An alternate positioning that you could look at that's shown here is to take the left and rights and still position them onto the outside of the screen. That, of course, means you can't have a screen that takes up the entire width of the wall, so you'll need to factor that into the design. But if you think about the way a lot of the movies are mixed, specifically when it comes to the music part of the soundtrack, that's still pretty much like two-channel hi-fi. So to have the left and right down in the same position as what you would have from a stereo aspect is a great place to put, because most of the music in a soundtrack is going to be panned to the left and the right. And then you can let the center channel still be that anchor, and it's typically going to have to go above the screen in most applications, I think. So that's another alternate location that you could look at here for these video walls.
Right. So just to back it up for everybody there, because you're in the two-piece projection, you can put the LCR behind the screen, a perforated screen, but in the micro-LED technology, you lose that capability. So what Jim's talking about is you either have to have space on the side for the left and right, and put the center channel in an architectural speaker above it in order to kind of bring that sound quality out. So, all right. Chris, let me turn back to you.
Sure.
We talked about the home theater element, but let's talk about maybe some of the other applications that might exist for this technology in the residential space.
Yeah. So another great question. Right now we're looking at it for a multitude of different applications within the home. Traditionally with projection, you always want it to be in a dark room environment because of the effects of ambient light. With this product, it can be not necessarily in a fixed room that would be traditional like a home theater. So it enables you to bring the product out into the home, into different areas of the home, right? Because the ambient light doesn't affect the quality. Other applications for residential might include different configurations that are different than a fixed 16:9 aspect ratio. Because it's modular, it doesn't have to fit the traditional form factor. There's a lot of interest in using it for presentation of art or other types of alternative content to play in more of a subdued format, similar to like what we do with our display product that we call the frame, where artwork looks amazing on that product specifically. And we're going to incorporate some of those features into this product as well.
Right. before I jump to the next question, just so everybody knows, what kind of price points are we talking about here for that 146? That's a diagonal for the 146 on the wall. What's kind of price point so everybody knows who the market potential is?
It's definitely tailored towards the luxury home market. If you want to come see me in the booth, be happy to talk to you one-on-one and give you details on pricing. I think that would probably be a better way to do it.
Okay, we don't want Facebook land to know that specifically. So, all right, you'd mentioned some of the technology advantages. Let's dig into the details. Everybody here is usually very technically adept, much more so than I am.
Sure.
Let's talk about some of the black levels and the other things, the ease of configuration, other things that make this a really attractive potential alternative.
Yeah. Obviously, the black level is the first thing you notice when you look at this technology. It usually is of a level that you're not used to seeing in a display. Some have compared it to other display technologies that are new and upcoming. But it's definitely kind of in a league all of its own. In addition to that, the ability to view it off angle is exceptional. You don't get traditional degradation of image quality from left to right or top to bottom. When you're putting it into a residential application specifically, you have to be cognizant of the overall size of the product. Depending on how big you scale it, but the amount of product you add, you're adding pixel density, and so it gives you this flexibility to determine what ultimate resolution you want to have based upon how much wall space you have and how much you can afford to buy.
Jim, let me turn to you. What size speaker or how much air do you need to push, so to speak, to have an audio system that's not overpowered by a giant video wall in the home?
Well, I think there's a couple different ways to look at this. If you look at the video walls that Samsung has right now, the 110-inch size is really the smallest. And so if you start to think about the type of audio systems that are going to go with that and look at the relative viewing distance that you're going to have, you're typically going to be in a larger room than you would with a traditional 65-inch television or 75-inch display. So thinking about that, I think there are a lot of issues with the form factors, the placement of the product. Is this in a media room? Is this in a dedicated theater type application? Is it more of a sports bar type setup in a high-end home? There's a lot of those factors that might contribute to what you want to choose for the speakers. I think looking at the ability that you can flush mount a lot of these displays, so instead of hanging it off the wall, I think you would often find it in a luxury application where it's built in and flushed in, and that may be an application where you're looking for a very tall, slender, in-wall speaker that maybe disappears with those. But there could be applications as well too where you'll want to have maybe a more traditional speaker that's out in the room. Again, thinking of a luxury customer, you might want to have a nice high-end pair of loudspeakers that could be out there, and this is something that we're showing with the wall here at the show is with a pair of JBL K2s and custom Ferrari red paint that are really becoming a part of that whole luxury experience there. And those certainly aren't going to be built in. They're going to be more sitting out into the room. So I think there's a lot of applications we can do. It's also going to depend on what you're doing. If it's a 2-channel system, I think a lot of these displays still could be in applications where maybe it's not surround, and maybe it is a music application. But then looking in surround, it's going to get more to flush mount products typically, or products that are going to be behind fabric walls or something like that.
Let's take it to the next step, which is the immersive audio solutions like Dolby Atmos. Do you lose anything not having the ability to put something behind the screen, or is it still capable of doing an immersive solution?
No, you can certainly still do it. So, and if you're looking at this from a residential standpoint and the scale of these, it becomes a little bit different in like cinema technology, where the simple angle of the LCRs is so much higher than what it would be in a residential application. But in this point, really, it is back again to the LCR placement. And as long as you can get that center channel as close as you can to the screen to anchor all the dialogue and any on-screen effects there, I think that's the main goal of it. So, and again, the high channel, side surround, rear surround, none of that is really going to change. It's simply the issue of you can't have something acoustically firing through the solid surface. So.
All right, Chris, you mentioned the modular nature of the product. Is there special training required? How can an integrator learn how to build one of these video walls?
Yep. As we're in this time frame now where we're working towards the official launch of the product, we're doing a lot of work in the background to develop tools such as a white paper specifically that talks about what is required to assess the installation location pre-sale, what things do you need to be concerned about during installation and post-sale. So that, I think, will be very comprehensive and very helpful. It covers both new build locations, so new construction, as well as retrofit. The weight of the product is not that much, but when you combine multiple cabinets together, it obviously will weigh more than a traditional flat panel display. So, there might be things that we're recommending in there, such as, reinforcement to the inside wall cavity as it relates to, vertical supports, things of that nature. What's important with LED, especially when you get into more micro-LED, is what makes it look so amazing is a combination of the precision alignment, panel to panel or cabinet to cabinet, and then things like uniformity. Having the most flat wall or wall structure that can support that weight, that won't move, that won't be as susceptible to seismic activity and things like that, will be best suited to this type of technology.
What's the depth?
Depth overall of the actual cabinet itself is less than 2 inches. But there is a wall frame that we mount first to a wall, and we mount the cabinets to the wall frame. So combined, maybe 4 inches.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there heat output? I assume that the LED.
Yeah, LEDs are very efficient, very energy efficient, and heat is not an issue with this. We have a fanless design, so with that fanless design, the chassis of the cabinets themselves are heat dissipating. So in a sense, they act very much like a giant heatsink. So it's actually an advantage to the way we've designed this product to eliminate the need for additional HVAC or exhausting. With one exception. If you were to embed it inside the wall, then you're, in a sense, trapping it inside of a cavity, in which case you'll have to vent that out. But if it's on the exterior part of the wall, then you would not.
All right, let's move on to what I think is probably the $64,000 question on the tip of everybody's tongue in the audience, which is comparing this in a home application where you're looking at a two-piece projection solution versus video wall. What is the advantage? What do you say to the customer? Why is this better, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. First thing that comes to mind from the perspective of our products is the longevity of the light source. With this technology, you have LED diodes that have a 100,000 hour lifespan to half-life. So 100,000 hours before you reach 50% of their capacity. Because it's got a peak brightness level of 1600 nits, there aren't too many instances where you're going to generate that type of power output that you're going to need. So there's a lot of headroom there. So you really can take that 100,000 hours, 50%, and really exponentially extend it out much, much further than that. So, in a commercial application where you're running it 10 hours a day, you're looking at 17 to 20 years before you even reach half your brightness. There isn't a projector in the market that can do that. Even laser projectors don't have that kind of longevity. So that's significant. The other things I would say is, versus projection specifically, you eliminate things like consumable costs, right? No lamps, no filters. You would replace a projector and a screen 2 to 2.5 to 3 times over the lifespan in which you would still be running the same product. So I think those are the key differences that I think of. In addition, if I could elaborate further, would be obviously the black levels, the support for HDR10+. With that extra brightness gives you that ability to just transition perfectly into HDR. And yeah, I think that sums it up. You know?
Jim, let me ask you: does it sound like the technology really works well in a great room type of environment, not necessarily a dedicated theater environment? What do you see there? And same question about the two-piece projection versus video wall.
I think one of the more appealing aspects of this is the fact that if you kind of look at the shift of where the market has gone with less dedicated theaters and a lot of people doing media rooms or multi-use spaces where it's not, let's sit in a dark room and watch a movie, I think that's a great application for these. And if you think about those situations, then from a design standpoint, if you're talking architectural or interior design, it really opens up the ability for these things to go virtually anywhere in the room, because you're not having to deal with now, oh, we can't have a window here, or we have to have motorized shades in here that we can pull down and black the room out. And I think that's a huge aspect of this that's going to be very appealing from that standpoint, again, thinking from the designer standpoint. So that's a huge improvement. I think maybe from a scale size of these, when we're looking at where the technology is today and looking at the sheer scale of some of these screens where you've got very large cinemas that have, a 20-foot or 25-foot screen in them, that's maybe still going to be the land of dedicated theaters. But again, I see just more of a shift to where we're seeing media rooms, and it's a great technology from that standpoint. Plus the added use cases of art, a backdrop behind a bar or things like this. When you start to think about the applications for these in a true luxury type home environment, there's numerous ones, and I think we see that with people that are buying more than one of these to put into high-end homes.
What's the best way for an integrator to showcase this to a customer? I mean, it's one thing to talk about it, but for them to see it, obviously Harman has it in their booth here, which we invite everybody to go see it, check it out. But how do you, the demo, it's all in the demo, especially at the affluent level. What do you recommend?
Yeah, so Samsung has an East Coast EBC center. It's an experience center where they have all of their display technology. The wall will be present there in that location. We're going to be opening up another one in Irvine, California, not too far from here, in November of this year. So that'll give us at least an East Coast, West Coast. We're working on looking at the possibility of working with partners and system integrators for other potential location sites, obviously tailoring the Midwest and the middle of the country. So we'll have opportunities to do that, and obviously we'll be bringing it out to many of the major shows as well.
I'm reminded of the old Fahrenheit 451 movie and book where Montag had the three-walled theater, remember?
Yeah.
And he could interact with it. It was really sophisticated, but I have this vision of a multi-wall scenario as a potential application here.
I do too. I can envision a time when obviously technology gets more mature and prices are better, where you could have an entire wall of your house that's made up of this material and simulate where you'd like to look out that window that day, right? Do I want to, if it's dead of winter, do I want to see the beach in Hawaii, to make me feel better, or vice versa? If it's hot, do I want to show a nice ski scene? It makes sense that someday that would be very, very viable.
Yeah. But I think one of the things exciting to me is this is one of the first collaborations we've seen between Harman and Samsung. Samsung purchasing Harman about a year and a half ago, I guess now. Yep. So it's exciting to see this collaboration taking place. So if I could get a big round of applause, Christopher Simpson, Senior Business Development Manager at Samsung, Jim Garrett, Senior Director of Product Strategy and Planning at Harman. Thank you again, guys.